Be ready, 5 seconds.
I rise today on behalf of my party to note some very grave concerns regarding this post office bill. I had hoped to welcome this bill because of many reasons. I had repeatedly flagged the need to revise and repeal the Indian Post Office Act. But over the past decade, we have often seen this government, in the guise of updating colonial era laws, bringing in legislation that is equally unreasonable and that more often than not encroaches upon the fundamental rights of Indians. Sadly, so it is with this bill. Even as it seeks to revise a colonial bill, this bill retains its colonial provisions. As someone who has great respect for the minister, I am disappointed to see him putting this before the House. Let me first remind the House that there is no debate happening in a vacuum. There is always a context. Around a month or so ago, several members of the opposition, including myself, received a threat notice from Apple warning us of the fact that attackers were trying to infiltrate our phones, by doing which they could extract data and even hack our phones and cameras. Was it really so long ago that the threat of Pegasus loomed large on us all, tracking our every move? These are the realities we must bear in our minds as we begin debating this bill, which strikes at the heart of our constitutional values, our fundamental rights, compelling every ordinary Indian to live at the mercy of our state's mistrust of its own citizens. On the one hand, the government says that it wishes to widen the range of services it renders so that it becomes more useful to the Indian populace. We heard the examples of my friend the minister. I will come back to this issue because I do not think that the bill does this at all. On the other hand, the government, through this bill, grants itself powers to infringe upon the citizens' rights to freedom of speech and expression as guaranteed under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution, and our right to privacy, which the Supreme Court recognized as being a subset of the right to life and liberty in Article 21. The government assumes these powers through Clause 9 of the bill. I would urge all of our friends to look on their screens at clauses 9 and 10 of the bill. This entitles any officer to cause any item in the post office to be opened or detained in the interest of security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states. Now, these are vague grounds and can be construed to cover anything that our government does not like. Indeed, the government does not only seek Indians by rummaging through their private shipments. Clause 9 makes clear that they may also direct India Post to dispose of which is to say, to destroy or trash any item, any personal article that has fallen foul of their definition of what constitutes a threat to India's interest. The situation is that Delhi in many ways is a sui generis situation. It is both the capital city of India and also a big cosmopolitan city, and it is one of the major engines of growth insofar as economic activity is concerned. What has happened over a period of time is that because there has been a large influx of populations from rural areas, semi rural areas, tier 2 and tier 3 cities in Delhi, there has been a fairly substantial amount of unauthorized building activity. There have been encroachments resulting in a situation that, on account of directives from the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court, a process of sealing and demolitions commenced. The then government in 2006 deemed it fit to bring a law which would provide protection against the sealing and demolition. These laws were passed on an annual basis. To deal with these problems of encroachment on public land, growth of slums, unauthorized colonies, and commercialization of residential areas, there were attempts made by the previous governments. But these attempts, considering the nature of the problem and the extent of the problems, were small and modest, and the problem remained largely unaddressed. I must introduce a word of caution here. Sir, issues relating to the growth of slums and unauthorized colonies, or for that matter encroachments, cannot be dealt through inhuman orders or mass demolition and sealing. Therefore, the then government thought it fit to bring in a law to provide protection against such activities for 1 year. This protection was approved by the House year after year. From 2011, 3 years extensions were sought. We were hoping that the governments of the day would address the issue of unauthorized colonies in a systematic way because when influx of populations took place, a large number of people came in for a variety of reasons. Maybe because of the poverty of our policies, people started just occupying available land, cutting colonies, and making those available. This is because otherwise the population of Delhi, which is vulnerable, would be liable for sealing, demolitions, and displacements. In addition, the final stages of notifying the Master Plan 2041 have been reached. DDA and MCD are also required to adopt measures to finalize norms, policy guidelines, feasible strategies for making orderly arrangements to deal with the problem of encroachments and unauthorized colonies. My ministry, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, has been in dialogue with the stakeholders to monitor the progress and different actions taken under the Act. Therefore, I come before the House to seek approval to extend this protection by another 3 years. I would like to start by thanking the members who have spoken on this bill, whilst lending their support to the bill that is before us. They have also made some suggestions. Many of these suggestions are already under consideration. Given the limitations of time, I will respond to the suggestions I have heard. I would also like to share with the members that the master plan, which I said is at the stage of finalization, will affect those who are living in the unauthorized colonies.